Hello and welcome to the European Football Show's Europa League Round of 16 preview with Breaking the Lines. In the build-up to the upcoming game week, we are dissecting each fixture with an assortment of guests from around the world. In today's clip, we look at Rangers FC versus Red Star Belgrade, one of several mouth-watering matchups awaiting us this coming week. Joining me to look at the Gers' chances in this tie is supporter and writer Patrick Caskie, whose work has included pieces for Breaking the Lines, Scouted Football and the Rangers Review. Patrick, good evening. Hope you are well. I'd like to start off by asking you, as I know you were there at Ibrox for the second leg in victory in the previous round against Borussia Dortmund. Rangers eventually prevailed by an aggregate score of 6-4, a 4-2 away win in Dortmund, backed up by a 2-2 draw at Ibrox. So just how, Patrick, did Rangers manage to, over the two legs, to pull off a brilliant win against an opponent of the pedigree of BVB?
Yeah, I think I told Adam when we recorded prior to the first leg that I thought it would be a 4-1 on aggregate to Dortmund, and that's probably, to say the least, I didn't expect to be in a position to be asked back to record and talk about another knockout round, and one in which, at least on paper, seems easier than the past, which seems paradoxical because the tournament should get more difficult as you progress. But no, that was perhaps the best two sort of culmination of 180 minutes we've seen under Giovanni Bronckhorst since he's been back. It's obviously just the nature and the sort of bubble we operate in Scotland. The people will say it's the greatest European result ever, and then you'll see some fans on the other side of Glasgow saying it's not great. Dortmund are sort of team from the past and they're not great, and so it's really difficult to find any rationality. But no, I think it was an outstanding result given the fact that it allows us to progress into the round of 16, which we did last year. We faced Slavia. Obviously, that was clouded for other things as opposed to on pitch matters. Hopefully, that doesn't happen now. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see some unsavory stuff on the sidelines between the fans. Maybe some aggression and fights. Wouldn't be uncharacteristic of either support. But no, I think we played well. We played aggressive. We played to the whistle. Ryan Kent was not uncharacteristically, but he played to his upper maximum. He is sort of that dynamic player who will play like one of the best in the world, genuinely, twice in every 10 games. But it's just that be able to sort of knit them together and the consistency, which leaves us wanting. You can look at the last two league games we played, sandwiched in between the Dortmund home leg, and he hasn't been great, but neither has the team, which is quite surprising. I know a lot of people made fun of it, the fact that we beat Dortmund in Germany, draw with Dortmund, and then we, in the meantime, draw with Dundee United and draw with Motherwell on either end of that game. But no, I think we just need to keep to the plan. We saw a lot of shapes being utilised. We saw Bronckhorst use both a 3 and a 2 back. We saw him play 2 up top with Kent, who's usually a winger, and he just being a harrying second striker. So there's a lot of tactical flexibility, and a lot has to be obviously given to the players' credit, but the manager did really well to sort of change the schemes to counteract Dortmund. And when they went 2-1 up at home, been very surprised for us to hang on, but their second half was a fantastic second half for us, at least. I'm sure the travelling Dortmund fans didn't love it as much, but they were there in their numbers, which we have to respect and applaud.
I was stunned. I was absolutely stunned when I saw that score in Dortmund. And then, when Rangers managed to hang on at home, I knew they'd achieved some excellent results in Europe over the last few seasons under Steven Gerrard. But wow, that really was a result, I think, to really firmly start Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's reign at Ibrox. I think that was the result that really got it going, if you know what I mean. So now I want to move the conversation on to the former Feyenoord, Rangers, Arsenal and FC Barcelona star who's currently managing one of the clubs he used to play for, Gerrard's replacement in the Ibrox dugout. Patrick, what formational or tactical differences have you noticed in Rangers since Van Bronckhorst came in compared to those deployed under Gerrard? Has it been a similar script, or has there been some more subtle differences?
If you were to look at just the sort of lineup on paper, the formation, the shape's relatively similar. Gerrard would play a flat 3, whereas we see a staggered 2-1, sort of like a 4-2-3-1 with a 10. But the main difference is fullbacks are less progressive, but still Tavernier manages to get a goal and assist almost every game, despite playing in a slightly more conservative way. The wingers would play wider. A lot was made of the sort of inside 10s we play with Gerrard. So it was almost like 3 10s as opposed to 2 wingers and a striker. Morelos is back to his best. He's involved in all facets of the game, more so Scott Arfield, who seemed to be spent force towards the end of Gerrard's tenure, has come back. He's really quite lethargic now. I think he's played 6 90s in a row, and at 33, that's not really conducive with the ability to sort of replicate form and stay healthy. We've also seen three at the back at some junctures. We haven't started a game necessarily with three back, but often we see it transition, especially in that second half against Dortmund. That's probably the best example of it. Lundstrom moved from a midfield three into as a centre back, and they're quite good at it. It just made us and allowed us to nullify their wide players and sit more sort of secure and structured. So those are the two main bits. I think right now is maybe not the best time to give him any plaudits, just because the fact the domestic form in the past 4 or 5 games hasn't been great. I think last night we beat St Johnstone 1-0, and that was our first win in 5 away from home. I think at the best of times, the Rangers support is incredibly reactionary and divisive. So even now, it's probably not a time to sort of get any rational gauging of anything, which just gives us probably, will give some people some confidence going into the Red Star game, because there's this idea in which I keep seeing everyone's saying Gio's a great manager in Europe and he's got us our wins, but he's not doing what he signed up for, his remit domestically. So I think a lot of people, despite what you might see on the weekends on Twitter and their reaction being all gloom and doom, are confident in Europe, because there's no reason not to. I think he's been charged for 4 games, and they've all been fantastic performances. 2 wins, 2 draws, and that includes a draw to Dortmund and a draw to Lyon.
Some lovely insight there, Patrick. So now on to the upcoming match against Red Star. You kind of hinted at it a little bit earlier on in the conversation that we're just having about this game. You know, I'd probably agree. I tend to agree with what you mentioned earlier. I would say potentially this is quite a dangerous opponent for Rangers to face, isn't it? In the sense that they may be an opponent which could be underestimated, maybe in the eyes of supporters so soon after beating Dortmund. You know, a side who many consider much superior to Red Star and probably are much superior to Red Star. So yeah, this highlights a bit as a real danger game for Rangers, if you know what I mean. So, Patrick, if you could summarise in a couple of sentences, where Rangers might still be vulnerable under Van Bronckhorst so far under his reign, you know, are there any weaknesses that there could be you could highlight?
I mean, goalkeeper is a big debate. Alan McGregor's 40 now. He was our player of the season last year, but he's been really poor this season. Incredibly reactionary, never really comes off his line. Still a really good shot stopper, but I think if you want to sort of, I know it's a lot easier said than done, send some balls into the corridor of uncertainty and force our centre-backs to communicate with the goalie, which really they haven't been doing much so recently. I also think if you are able to sort of dominate the engine room, again, it's a lot easier said than done, but if Ryan Jack's out, we look a bit fragile because we have the skill, but perhaps not the industry without Jack. So I think if Red Star are able to sort of cross well, because both our centre backs and our goalkeepers are not great in there and quite poor at timing the judgment of balls, and if we're able to sort of from the onset get that first big tackle in, I know that's a arbitrary, just a classic dad football term. If you're able to get that big tackle in and set the tempo, especially when they play it in Serbia, because I don't think it'll be possible for them to set a tempo so much at Ibrox just with the 50,000 fans. But if you're in Zvezda's home stadium with a numerical majority in the stands, if they manage to get it off quick, I think that's much like what I said against Dortmund, and we managed to sort of evade all of that central criticism. So hopefully we do that again.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this tie actually to keep track of it, because I think it's one of those really fascinating ones, and it's one of the ones as well where we're guaranteed to get someone from outside of the big 5 leagues in the last stage of the Europa League. It's the only tie that guarantees that, whereas you've got 5 in the Conference League out of the 8 where you're going to get teams from outside of the big 5. Really just shows you how much harder the Europa League has become to win, especially over the last 10 years or so. Yeah, excellent stuff. And finally, one last thing, Patrick, to wrap it up from the Rangers' point of view. I'd like you to give me a prediction for the tie, please. Can either be an aggregate score over the 2 legs, or just which side do you think will progress over the 2 legs?
I'll give you both. I think Rangers will progress, both Hart and Head are saying it. I know last time I said Hart said Rangers, Head said Dortmund, but this time they're both aligning, which hopefully is good. And I would say 4-2. I think we're going to win 3-1 at home first, and then we're going to play a sort of KG 1-1 away. Albeit I think that could go plus or minus 1 goal, but I do think we're firm favourites. 538 has it at 65%. I wouldn't go that far just because Zvezda Stadium is one of the most hostile in Europe, and we do seem a bit inconsistent at the moment. So I do think 4-2 around that. I do think both teams will concede in both games, albeit their domestic defenses are quite good. I think Zvezda conceded like 8 in Serbia, and albeit ours isn't as watertight, we're still under a goal a game. But I do think this will be a good game to watch. And I think for football fans like you and I especially will appreciate the fact that two teams from outside the top five leagues have been matched up. So one will progress and we will have some representation outside the sort of nouveau riche leagues. It perhaps maybe it's a shame that we drew each other, and I could have cheered them on against someone like Barcelona, and hopefully they won, and it could meet maybe the semis. But no, I think Rangers win 4-2. Albeit I will be mad if Rangers lose, obviously. Though Red Star will be the team I cheer for if they get through.
Excellent stuff. Excellent stuff there, Patrick. Thank you very much.
No worries.
So that was some fantastic insight there from Patrick from the Rangers' point of view. And now we move on to the other side of the equation. Opponents Red Star Belgrade. Crvena Zvezda Belgrade, as they are known in Serbian, finished first place in their group behind their first place in their group ahead of SC Braga, Midtjylland and Ludogorets Razgrad. Joining me to profile their chances in this round of 16 tie is Milos Dusanovic from @SerbianFooty, a great source for all information on all things Serbian football. Milos, it's great to have you with us, and thank you very much for taking time out of your day to join us here on this BTL special. So firstly, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. Excited to talk some Serbian football.
Excellent stuff. So firstly, Milos, let's inquire about the job that coach Dejan Stankovic has done at Red Star since taking the reins of the club in December 2019, I believe. It was a club that he represented as a player before his big money move to Serie A with Lazio. Stankovic has guided Red Star to 2 consecutive Serbian Superliga titles, and even last season, an unbeaten Serbian Superliga campaign. How would you assess Stankovic's work in charge so far of Red Star, both domestically and in Europe, where results have by and large been quite good?
Yeah, he's done very well. It hasn't, he didn't have an easy task taking over from a manager who took the team to 2 Champions Leagues. They played in 2018, 2019, both times in the group stage. So it wasn't easy, of course, big shoes to fill, and he hasn't qualified for the Champions League in both his seasons, but he made it to the knockout stages of the Europa League last year, narrowly losing to AC Milan, and then this year in the round of 16. So it's a great achievement for the club, and I think he's done fairly well. It's his first coaching job. He was an assistant in Finter, but this is his first, head coaching job as a manager, and he's done well. His sides are very organized. He's beloved by the players. He has decent tactics, so it seems like he's one of the younger managers who's going to have a very bright future. So far, so good. Obviously, the game against Rangers will be a big test for him, and a win here could pretty much set up his career for many great things if it all goes to plan.
It's funny because at the start of this club season, I actually said that there's 2 guys I'd love to see coaching in Serie A in the future because they had such long, distinguished careers in Serie A. The first one was Andrei Shevchenko, and the second one, obviously, now is Dejan Stankovic, obviously on both sides of the Milan derby.
And I think he turned down Sampdoria a couple of months ago in the winter. I think December, they offered him the job, and he turned it down to keep the European dream alive.
That's very true. And the ironic thing is, I think he would have been at Sampdoria had he accepted at the same time that Sheva was at Genoa. That would have been absolutely mental. They were rivals in Milan and then rivals on the coaching scene in Genoa as well. That would have been something truly unique and amazing. But yeah, that's lovely stuff, Milos. So the tie against Rangers, whilst not being easy for Zvezda, it does give them a decent chance to make the quarterfinals of a European competition like the Europa League, which one has to say is remarkable for a team from a non-Big Five European league outside of the Netherlands and Portugal. The Dutch and Portuguese teams do often tend to have these good long runs. They're kind of like ahead of the rest of the non-Big Five leagues. But for a team like Red Star and in a league like Serbia, it truly is an impressive achievement. And, Serbia's Superliga is now becoming one of the better ranked leagues in UEFA's coefficient ratings. I think if memory serves me correct now, it's now currently in the top 10, or it's in and around the top 10. I think it's in the top 10, isn't it?
Yes, it's 10th. Well, now we're 10th with Russia being, suspended. But the interesting thing about this draw is that Scotland is 9th currently, and it's not a lot of points separating the teams. So if Red Star gets both these wins, there's a pretty good chance that Serbia will actually pass Scotland in the coefficient ranking and be 9th. So there's a lot at stake here. Scotland wants to keep that coefficient high, and Serbia could pass them if Zvezda goes through in this draw and gets that extra point.
Yeah, a lot at stake here, folks. So, so Milos, just give us an insight into how, like, the Serbian Superliga, has managed to get up this high. How big is an achievement for a league like Serbia, where, I think a lot of people might not be aware. You have things like, regulations and restrictions on foreign players in squads, for example, and finally too, what has Stankovic been like tactically and formations wise at Red Star so far?
I think it's very shocking that our league is so high in Europe and doing really well. Most of it is thanks to the amazing runs of Red Star in Europe the last 4 or 5 years, and as well as Partizan has had some decent runs as well. They made the knockout stages a couple of times also. So it's just that accumulating has caused our league to go up a lot in the rankings. I think a couple of years ago we were 17th, and now we're 10th, looking to be 9th. So it's very exciting. It's a great time for Serbian football. National team went to the World Cup by beating Portugal in the last minute, and now we have 2 teams in the knockout stages in Europe. So things are going pretty unbelievably amazing currently, and people can't believe it, but hopefully it just gets better with this tie, and they both make it to the quarterfinals. Now, as far as Red Star, they are in good form currently. They're scoring a lot of goals in the league. They just won the Belgrade Derby against Partizan 2 days ago, so they'll be very high in confidence, and they dominated the game as well. So that will only help them. Stankovic, as a manager, he is fairly a defensive and cautious manager. I wouldn't say that Zvezda is like a team that's going to bunker and wait on the counter, but also they are very solid. They have a lot. Their best players, Alexander Dragovic, who used to play for years in the Bundesliga and for the Austrian national team. He's a player that is of quality enough to play in a top 5 league. I'm not sure. He came to Serbia and Red Star because of his grandfather's wish. So he's kind of here, by a lucky chance. But he's an amazing player, an amazing defender, and definitely Zvezda's best player. He kind of holds that whole back line together. And then there's also some really good players in midfield, like Alexander Katai, who scores a lot of goals, creates a lot of problems, a very creative player. Mirko Ivanic as well, similar to Katai. Very creative player, and the new signing, striker Ohi, the Norwegian striker. He was the top scorer in the Norwegian league the last 2 years, and this year he joined Red Star as a free transfer. He's already got 3 or 4 goals. He scored in the Derby game the other day. He scored again today in the league game. So he's a very dangerous player. Very good nose for goal, good in the box. He's got some speed as well. So Zvezda has a lot of weapons, and they are very well organized. And it won't be easy for Rangers to break them down, and also it won't be easy for Zvezda to break Rangers down. So I expect 2 very close games, and I think these games will be decided by moments, by a couple of moments, basically, because both these sides are very evenly matched, in my opinion. Very similar talent level. So it's going to be very interesting, and I think a couple bounces here or there, a couple moments here or there will decide this draw.
Lovely insight there on Red Star. So Milos, could you summarise in a couple of sentences where Red Star might be able to hurt Rangers? What are the strengths of this team which could propel them to the quarterfinals? I mean, just going back quickly to highlighting your key players. Yeah, I was aware of Katai before we started here, but I'd almost totally forgotten about Dragovic. I'd almost totally forgotten that he'd returned back to the Serbian Superliga. That's absolutely fantastic. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I echo your thoughts. He could still be playing in a top 5 league. So yeah, I'd totally forgotten he was there. But yeah, it was a great signing for them. So yeah, where are the strengths of this team that could propel them through to the quarterfinals? Where might Red Star be able to hurt Rangers?
I think Red Star is a very experienced team. They're a team that's been together for a really long time. And Milan Borjan in goal, he plays for the Canadian national team, and they're first place in CONCACAF currently and going to their first World Cup in 40 years. I think the strength of the team is in that unity, their organization, and just their will to win. They're just a very well organized team and a very, very experienced team that's done a lot of good things in Europe. I mean, a lot of these players have been there for the Champions League games and last year as well. the group stage run and the run to the knockout stages of the Europa League, and they've also won the Serbian League a couple times in a row as well. So it's a team that is very well drilled. They have a plan. They usually stick to that plan, and they don't give away many chances, and they also don't quit. This is not a team that's going to go down a goal and not attack. So I think Rangers will be in for quite a fight. And for Red Star, when it comes to scoring goals, they're pretty dangerous on set pieces as well. Guys like Dragovic and Milan Pavkov, people might remember from scoring, 2 goals against Liverpool in the Champions League in 2018. Also, they're good on the counter. They have quite a few skilled technical players that can create a lot of problems. The one thing they kind of lack is a bit of speed. So that might be, well, it is an older team. Their average age is like 29 years old of their lineups that usually play. So they're a bit of an older team. So not a lot of quick players, but they make up for that with their tenacity and their fighting spirit and their experience.
Excellent stuff. And one last thing, Milos. I just need a prediction from you now on how you think the game will go. Can either be an aggregate score prediction, just which team you think will win over the 2 legs, or if you're feeling really bold, both.
I think it's going to be very close. I'm really looking forward to this tie. I think it's going to be an amazing atmosphere in Glasgow and in Belgrade. Anybody that's out there who can make it to these games, I highly recommend going to both if you can. It's a cheap flight to Belgrade, and you're going to see an unforgettable atmosphere. So I recommend all Scottish fans come to Serbia, check it out. You're going to have a great time, and you're going to see something amazing. And same with Serbian fans. I'm sure we're going to have a great time in Scotland as well. As far as a prediction, I would say I think it's going to go down to penalties. Honestly, I think it's going to be 1-1, 1-1, and then Red Star wins on penalties 5-4.
Fantastic stuff, Milos. Great to hear from you. And that, folks, is your preview for Rangers FC versus Red Star Belgrade.